She stepped down from the stagecoach as if the wind itself had carved her from it. Her boots barely touched the frozen dirt of Dustwell Junction, and already eyes were narrowing. The hem of her dress fluttered like the tail of a frightened swallow, stitched from cloth too thin for the season, but she didn't shiver. Didn't flinch, even when the driver tossed her single bag into the road dust. Across the square, a man leaned against the wooden gate of the stockyard, tall enough to blot the sun from the barn behind him. He looked like a mountain dressed in flannel and leather, arms folded, jaw like carved stone. His name was Colt Merritt. Folks called him the Giant of Dustwell. And when his gaze dropped to the girl standing in his shadow, his brow furrowed. "You're smaller than I expected," he said. The words dropped heavy. "I wanted a sturdy woman." The girl, whose name was Ellie Jo Hart, didn't speak for a beat. Then, too, her chin lifted a notch, though her cheeks flushed raw. "I can work," she said, voice quiet as rain on dry wood. Colt didn't answer. He looked away, past her, past the crowd, and walked toward the corral without a backward glance. The driver climbed back onto the coach, flicked his reins, and was gone before the wind had finished carrying Ellie's name through the street. The townsfolk lingered long enough to whisper. They always did. And as the church bell rang 9, Ellie picked up her bag, crossed the street, and walked toward the ranch on legs that had been called too thin, too short, too breakable her whole life. He didn't let her into the house. Not that night. Not the next. The barn was hers if she wanted to stay. She did. Laid her shawl across the hay, curled beneath it like a cat behind barrels of oats, and slept light, like someone waiting for the earth to shake her loose. In the morning, she was already at the fence line before the sun tipped its hat. A hammer in one hand, spare boards in the other. She mended what was broken, not asking permission. Didn't need to. The work asked for her. Her palms blistered, bled, hardened. Colt watched. Not closely. Not kindly. Just enough to see she didn't cry when a nail caught her finger or when the old donkey snapped near her waist. She didn't name the animal, though she fed it, whispered to it in a tone meant for children or ghosts. She left things fixed and folded without comment. His torn coat, stitched and hung by the porch. His shovel, sharpened and oiled. Never a note. Just her presence in things. One dusk, she tried to carry water from the well. The cold had turned the rope stiff, the bucket heavier than she was. She didn't ask for help, but when the wind took her breath and her hands trembled, a pair of gloves landed in the dirt beside her boots. Colt had tossed them. Said nothing. Just turned and walked into the dark. She wore them every day after. The town noticed. Of course they did. Dustwell was the kind of place where folks knew the smell of each other's laundry. The preacher's wife said Ellie was angling for the land. Another woman muttered, "Should have sent her back when he saw her." Ellie heard. Everyone knew she did. But she didn't fight it. Just bent lower, worked quieter. She planted sunflowers along the fence line without being asked. No one saw her do it. But come spring, they rose like golden flags above the thorns. Colt wasn't an easy man. Not hard, exactly, but locked. Like a gate rusted shut and forgotten. He never smiled. Never joked. But he noticed. Noticed when she brushed the snow off the porch before his boots could track it inside. Noticed when she left the better cuts of meat for the dogs and kept the bone for herself. One night, she sang in the barn. Not loud, not for him. Just a thread of him into the dark to calm the horses during a thunderstorm. Her voice was smoke and sugar, soft but worn at the edges. He stood just outside the door, listening with his eyes closed like a man who'd found something he'd buried years ago. The next day, he left a tin of peaches on the hay. No note. That was the closest thing to a word between them in 2 weeks. Then came the frost day, the one where the cows wouldn't move, the plow was frozen, and the sky threatened snow with no promise of ending. Colt walked out to find Ellie harnessing herself to the sled cart, trying to drag firewood toward the barn. Her coat was too big. Her hands were bleeding again. "What are you doing?" he asked, the words low, not angry, just disbelieving. She didn't look at him. Didn't want the calves to freeze. He didn't offer help. Not at first. Just stood there, watching. Then he stepped forward, not to stop her, but beside her, picked up the rope and pulled with her, the two of them straining in silence. By nightfall, the barn was warm. The calves lived. They didn't speak of it. After that, he stopped saying nothing. Not much, just enough. A nod. That'll do. A grunt when she passed his coffee, now sweetened. He never asked who added the sugar. Then came the town gathering. Spring's first fair. Colt hadn't gone in years. Didn't see the point in talking when he had cattle and sky. But he asked Ellie if she wanted to go. She wore a blue dress, hand-sewn from scraps, sleeves uneven, but clean. Colt waited outside the barn, hat in hand, eyes unsure. They walked in together. Not touching, but not apart. The room quieted. The whispers started fast. She's no taller than a sapling. Thought he wanted a ranch wife, not a child. Bet she can't even lift a shovel. Ellie heard them all. Stared at the pie table. At her hands. Then a ranch hand, barely 14, stumbled while leading a calf. The rope twisted. The animal bleated. No one moved. Except her. Ellie rushed forward, hands firm, voice calm. She righted the animal, soothed it with that same smoke and sugar tone. Lifted the feed sack that had spilled. Helped the boy to his feet. All in one breath. The room watched. Colt stepped forward. Cleared his throat once. I asked for sturdy, he said, his voice slow, like something sacred. Turns out I didn't know what sturdy meant. The silence broke like dawn. Ellie didn't cry. Didn't smile. Just stood there, her dress wrinkled, her hands dirt-streaked, and for the first time in her life, seen. Later that night, back on the porch, he poured her coffee. You stayed, he said. I wasn't invited to leave, she answered without pride. He nodded. The wind picked up, scattering a few sunflower seeds from the satchel she still carried. Tomorrow, they'd plant more. But that night, he watched her hands and didn't speak. Because sometimes the loudest thing a man can say is nothing at all. Which city are you watching our video from? Please leave a comment. Please subscribe to the channel as well. Thank you.